Welcome back to another episode of Black on Purpose 365, where Black on Purpose is the purpose. Have a seat at the table. This afternoon, thought that I would have more of intimate conversation. This one is going to be about really the theme of this, because I actually went to the movies and I watched Mission Impossible. And from that, I'm using that as my theme for today, which is Mission Impossible, because I know that many people are going through a lot of different experiences, and it feels like mission is impossible to get through it, to overcome it, to get on the other side of it. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. This is basically gonna be like a safe space. We all in here. We all are our family. We all are our cousins. We all go to the cookouts, all of that. So we're gonna sit down and just have some dialogue. I know a lot of people that are experiencing things like adversity, different types of adversity. People that I know some people that are have experienced deaths. There's a thing about I talked to an assistant, and me and my mother, we also was talking, and they brought up some things as far as like grieving. People grieve at different times. People may not know that they're grieving. People grieve who they used to be. you know people grieve uh relationships. There's so many different forms of grieving. I really didn't. There wasn't even. I guess I knew, but didn't really know. So after we had some of those conversations, I was like, you know what, that's definitely things to add. I know many of my friends, many people that I know that have experienced deaths. Um, Also, I know many that have, well, or several that have experienced divorces and adjusting to life after the divorce. And I know that is can be extremely, extremely hard. There's the challenges with people in their jobs, where the jobs are changing, or even in some cases where the jobs are they're getting laid off. People are trying to adjust to those things. There's people that have different addictions, drug addictions, alcoholism, you know, those things. Like, people are really going through a lot of different things, man. And it's just not getting easier. And that's why today I said this is considered mission impossible, because it's people that may not even realize that they can't break those habits. It's become so much the norm that they don't even identify some of these different things as problems. um and the thing is here in Black on Purpose 365, it's a non-judgment zone. So what we attempt to do is we open up the floor. This is a safe space. People, you can talk, come chime in, go to the YouTube channel, express your feelings, like, comment, all of those things, and we always give back to you, because this podcast, when it first began, we started out thinking it was going to be one thing, and then for me, I started going through different things personally, and doing this podcast, it started feeling a little bit therapeutic to me, right? It was like, after having a conversation, it was like, man, I felt I felt a little bit lighter. I felt all right too after I'm finished. So from that, I did another episode, and it was like, wow, all right, I'm not as heavy. I don't feel it doesn't feel like there's things on my shoulders. So and gradually over it has evolved into I think that this podcast now is something that's going to be for people that can relate, maybe can learn, can maybe even try to apply some of the things to their own everyday lives. So with that, I'm going to talk about a few different things, that can help you through some of those different transitions, some of those different areas of your life that, you know, you might be battling with, struggling with. Um, Number one for me, I would say get a hobby. And, hobbies can be anything, but for real, I think that having a hobby is extremely, extremely important because it can kind of take you away from, whatever your norm is, kind of take it off your mind when you're doing a hobby, because a hobby is going to be something that you enjoy doing. It's funny because my mother, I suggest to her sometimes, try to find a hobby. She doesn't even know what her hobby, still to this day, doesn't really think that she has a hobby. I know what the hobby is, but it's not for me to point that out to her. I have to allow her to find that hobby, or see what that really is. But yeah, so I think, it's one of the things that when I sat down, and I've been through a lot of different transitions, so when I'm talking about these different transitions, many of these things I can say at some point in time in my life, I have experienced these different emotions, these different feelings. Um, just feeling like it's no way that I can get through this. How do I resolve this? Um, and so then after you come up with a hobby, the next thing that you need to do is you gotta get like a safe space, man. Like for real, a safe space. Safe space meaning being around some people that you can talk to them and they're not judging you. Also, they're not they're letting you finish what you need to say without cutting you off and talking over top of you, and trying to beat you to what you're saying. They're just there to hear you out, and allow, you can trust that what you all say stays right where that is. And your safe space could be friends from, somebody that you've been knowing for years. It could be somebody that you don't know. I think I discovered at one point when I lived in Virginia Beach, it was actually easier for me to talk to people that I did not know rather than talking to, you know, people that knew me. So, you find your safe space. Find your safe space, meaning a safe space where you feel comfortable in talking to someone, getting those things out, because I cannot tell you how many times that I've heard people say, when they're going through stuff, that they just don't feel like that they want to be bothered with anybody, or don't want to talk to anybody, or they want to isolate themselves. Isolating yourself is not the best idea at all, because you're going to keep harping on it. You're going to keep thinking about it. You're going to keep wondering this, that, and all of that. You don't need that. All that's doing, from this book that I read, it talks about how when you went through a traumatic situation, let's say when you were 10 years old, you memorize that bad memory, and then you attach it to a bad feeling. And the thing about that is, when you hold on to it, other things can trigger that same feeling. And next thing you know, you 20 years later, somebody that ain't got nothing to do with that past situation can trigger that emotion and that feeling, and then it allows you to just continuously relive it and relive it and relive it and relive it, and that's not healthy at all, because at some point that ends up causing you to get into living in survivor's mode. And when you're living in survivor's mode, it's okay to be there sometimes, but if you live in survivor's mode all the time, that's like being in driving a manual, a stick, and staying in first gear all the time, never shifting. Can't do that. It's clutch gonna burn out. Same way with the human body, the human mind, things start breaking down. So you need to find a safe space and let it out. Whether that's going somewhere to scream, whether you're talking in the mirror, find something, some way, an outlet that's a safe space to you. Now, after you find your safe space, then you want to speak positive affirmations daily. You know, you and I've suggested that to a few different people, and they they hear it, but it's like, yeah, he crazy. But no, for real, I can feel. So like for me, in the morning, I stand in the mirror and I ask myself at least 5 times, do I have an attitude of gratitude? Till I can confidently say that, Then I, I tell myself things like, I'm greatness. I believe in myself. I'm confident. I always overcome adversity. I can do anything that I put my mind to, but work hard, keep going forward, taking it one day at a time. Like I just continuously repeat that several different times, and I can feel my body and feel my mind. I can feel everything shift after saying that a few times. Then and then I'll just stand in the mirror sometimes and just smile for like 50 seconds. Completely changes my whole mode. I advise, and for whatever reason, I don't know, sometimes it seems like people just, instead of trying something that could help them, they would rather just live in this space of being unhappy or being negative or just blah. I don't like to live in that space because I can't be productive as I like to be. So I have had to figure out ways to get past that, just that feeling, that sour taste in my mouth, or just not feeling like I need to do anything. Another I also I meant to include is that I know I got I got several friends, several people that I know that are really dealing with things where they're trying to transition into maybe being a different caliber of a parent now. Whereas they may have seen their children all the time, or they might have had the spouse around. Now that person's not around, and so they're adjusting as well. And so again, this is for that particular situation. This is for a lot of we're covering a lot of different things in this discussion today, because I can honestly say, in I got a lot of different friends, a lot of people in a lot of places. And that's when you start realizing that a lot of people are going through a lot of different things. It sucks. It sucks, especially for me, because I care so much. Sometimes I think I care more about people than people care about themselves, especially my family. That's for a whole another topic, another time. But anyways, back to what I was saying. Speaking positive affirmations, because the thing is that I don't know how many people really understand this concept, but your body follows the mind. Kind of like if you could keep saying that you don't feel well, you're gonna end up getting sick. Or if you speak about, you're tired, you always got bills, more bills is gonna come. So being mindful of those things, being more intentional about, the choice of the words that you use. So when you start speaking those positive affirmations, it starts to make you a lot more aware of those different, the power of your tongue. So then you start to watch your tongue, you know. Um, Another thing is taking the time to figure out the feelings and the emotions, the bad feelings and the bad emotions, um, that trigger you, and then being able to I guess recognize what causes that. What is it? An event? Is it something that someone says? Is it your own failures? What is that? So it's you know taking a dive into, like, being aware of when you get those certain feelings. So once you can identify what actually is what makes you feel a certain type of way, or makes you cause you to to have those, now you can work on that, meaning work on it to undo that that feeling attached to that memory attached to that feeling. You can undo it. You can work on undoing it. But until you take the time to work on yourself, and you really, you know, um, pay attention to what causes them certain feelings and those certain emotions, till you can take that time to do that, I would say a lot of the things that I'm suggesting probably ain't gonna help you that much because basically you're in denial. So you really got to take the time to understand you because nobody understands you better than you, or nobody knows what you're feeling like you. You can't. Somebody else can really understand how you feel about certain things. They can describe it, but that still don't really. That's not that's not gonna be able to mimic it. So you really got to do that, and then once you can really unlearn that memory, or I would say maybe not unlearn the feeling that's attached to that bad memory. Now, once you do that, it doesn't. It's not even if things happen, it doesn't. It doesn't impact you the same way anymore. And that's when you start noticing your evolution. Or that's when you can tell that you've taken the next steps to where you're like, okay, we we on something different now. Then that's when you can transition. Another thing is be active. Like just sitting around reliving those different feelings, it's not gonna help anything. Never has, never will. Get up, go do some stretching, walk around the neighborhood, walk around the block, get outside, go do something to when you start feeling, you know, those the emotions, those negative feelings, those negative emotions. Get up and go walk. I can remember during COVID, I tore my meniscus, and there was some times where it was hurting so much that I was just like, oh man, I don't even really, just a bunch of negative. Uh, I got to do this. Why is it this? Complaining about the people at the job. Like everything and then I noticed that when I would get up, stretch a little bit, and I would just walk around my neighborhood. Couldn't really run because I was still recovering, but I would walk, and I could feel my mood change just by walking, not even a mile, just walking around the block and coming back. I could feel my mood completely changing from pouting and everything was getting on my nerves and I'm frustrated to transitioned into okay, let's lock in. So really being active, getting up and getting moving a little bit. You'd be surprised how much that really will help you um to generate positive energy. Um another thing that I was actually explaining this to someone the other day. Meditation. Now, I'm gonna share I guess one of my meditation practices because I've heard some different people say, "Oh, every time I meditate, I fall asleep." Well, don't try and meditate laying down because it ain't gonna work. Go somewhere and sit in a comfortable space where you kind of, upright, and then hold your hands like this or hold your hands like that or something like that. And the thing is, you take a deep breath in, but take a deep breath in and do it like a 7 count. So 7 seconds, and then hold it for 7 seconds, and then breathe out 7 seconds. Do that a couple of times, at least 5 times. Just doing that alone, you'll feel you'll feel your mind, you'll feel your body, you'll feel everything align. Then as you get used to and get into the habit of doing it, and it becomes repetitious, then you can actually start applying some or speaking some of the positive affirmations to yourself. As you go through the meditation, you could just, I feel I'm greatness. I believe in myself. I'm confident. You breathe it in deep, and then you blow that out. Like you can, and making sure that you're sitting down in a comfortable position, not moving, not flinching, just staying locked into that particular however you decide to sit, and just stay there and breathe. Because one of the most important things I think that people do not realize is when you start having anxiety, it actually causes you to not it impacts your breathing a lot, even to a point where you're almost not breathing sometimes when that anxiety really hits you, like almost like it hits you in the chest. And so just taking those few moments to separate yourself from the situation and breathe. It might sound so simple. It might sound like, yeah, that's not effective. But I can promise you, just taking those few little minutes to do that and practicing it. Obviously, it might not be the best experience the first time you do it, but keep at it. Keep practicing it, and then you'll start to notice it, and then you'll reach the level of of transitioning. So, and then another important thing I would say is writing out small goals. That I think that when you have something to work towards, it allows you to have your spirit. It allows you to, it's interesting how when you're working towards something, how you'll give just a little bit more effort, or you'll be a little bit more attentive versus just, I'm just getting up. For example, if you just say, I'm gonna start going to the gym to work out, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if you say, all right, I got to be fit enough to go to the beach in 2 months, or fit enough to be prepared for this wedding coming up. Now you're gonna stick to that a little bit more because you have a goal now, and that's gonna force you to do that. So, and that applies, setting some small goals, because small goals turn into big victories. So I think that those are some things that you really, really, really can hone in on, work towards, doing those things consistently. And it'll help you, because I can honestly tell you that I'm not sitting here talking to you all just making this up. I'm talking to you, telling you these are some things that I've done that literally have saved my own life. I've been in some dark spaces. I done went through a whole lot. Like, I felt like there were some situations where um had some life changing things that happened within the past few months, and it was almost like almost everyone turned their back on me. All the different people that hit me up on a regular basis suddenly were nowhere to be found. I had like one or two people, um, I say three, but it was like, you know, but what I relied on was my goals. I relied on the positive affirmations. I relied on prayer. I relied on, going and getting in a run. And even then, it was sometimes where I was waking up out of my sleep, like, oh my gosh, like, but it was that taking that deep breath, relaxing myself, and just reminding myself that, taking one day at a time, and everything, and then gradually you get through, because I think what was the guy said, pain is temporary. So pain, hurt, all of those different things are temporary, but you got to keep going through it. Once you get to the other side, that's when you experience the success. Problem is that too many people quit. They give up before they actually get through the storm. So that's what we're here today for. That's what we are. That's what we encourage in Black on Purpose. We encourage you to keep on going forward, keep fighting, take the right steps and the right measures to make sure that your mental and your physical health are in great place. Because we want everybody to live to be 200 years old. I want to see everyone successful. I want everybody that I'm connected to, when they're going through things, I feel like I'm going through it a little bit. So I want to make sure that everybody wins. That's how I feel. That's what I think about. For now, this is one of those episodes where we're working together to work on each other to get better. And so again, this is Black on Purpose 365, the safe space. So for now, I pulled up a seat to the table, got my own plate. Hopefully you all will get a plate. Till then, get what you need, and then we'll come back and we'll have more discussions about things like this at another time. So for now, I just want to say that I appreciate all the different people that communicate, that I've suddenly, out of the blue, the Instagram page has grown a lot in the last couple of weeks. So kudos to all the different people that's starting to rock with us. So we're gonna continue to grow. We got t-shirts coming that's gonna say Black on Purpose 365. Keep an eye out for all of those different things. Until next time, it has been a pleasure. Please, please, please like, share, comment, And let's continue to grow together, get the safe space, because we all need to be there for each other. Until next time, Black on Purpose, 365.